Andrew Clubb, welcome to South East Queensland, mate. What are you doing here?
Hey, so it's another editorial.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for 35 years now. Can't stop doing it, mate. But no, a story with Stephen Gall and you, and the mateship that you guys have developed over the last decade or more, riding together with your motocross training, your mountain bike training, and now your adventure bike riding.
Well,
and that's an editorial for Adventure Bike Australia magazine that I work for now.
So I'm the third wheel on this story, pretty much.
No, you're the second wheel, mate. It's you and Steve. I'm in the background shooting the photographs and writing the editorial, mate.
So this is just a really quick chat with Clubby. This is as raw as you can get. We've just been out riding today. I said to Clubby, can I just grab you for 15 minutes and do a quick chat? Because I want people to meet Andrew Clubb, the man behind the magazine and the magazines in the past. So my association with you goes back to mid-80s and onwards, because you were the guy. You were the journo at every motocross race in Australia. You were it.
I started in 1982. It was my first published editorial in a magazine. That was Rev's Motorcycle News.
Right.
And how's this for just the way fate plays out? That editorial was about Stephen Gall.
Oh,
winning
wow.
the 1982 New South Wales 500 Motocross Championship at Firsltly Park, which you would have raced up there in your Taree. And you know, my story goes, I got a photograph of Steve flying over the finish line, checkered flags in the background, winning that championship. And back then, I was just a hack clubman rider, clubman photographer. They were my two hobbies, dirt bikes and cameras.
Yeah.
And then I got this pretty, you know, like back then, good photo of Steve. And my dear old father, I had a dark room at home back then, printed it up, had this nice 8x10 black and white print, like black and white print back in the day. And my dad, you know, not that my dad ever gave me inspiration or quotes or ambition, but the one thing he said was, oh, you should send that photo into that Rev's motorcycle paper. They'll print that. And I remember him saying that, so I said, oh, you reckon? But I did, and they did. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from the editor, Mike Esdale. Oh, Andrew, I've received the photo, thank you, but we're a newspaper. We need a news story about how Stephen Gall won that race. So I poured over it for the next 3 days, 300 words, news story, wrote it.
With no journo experience?
I failed English, like English at the HSC was my worst subject.
Yeah.
But I had the gift, not the gift of the gab, the gift of the written gab.
Yeah.
And again, that was something that I inherited from my father, in that I could write naturally and easily. And anyway, long story short, wrote this news story about Stephen. It got published 2 weeks later in Revs. A month later, I went to a New South Wales Enduro Championship. Same thing happened, got photos of Phil Lovett winning the event. They wanted a news story about that. And then within a matter of months, the guy who was travelling around Australia for Revs, covering the Mr. Motocross series, he left the job to go and start getting involved in the aftermarket apparel industry, gave up his journo work, and Revs came to me and said, oh, Andrew, we need someone to cover Mr. Motocross next year. Right. Would you do that? Oh, yeah, I guess so. And like, seriously, now that's just how it happened, right place, right time. When someone offers you something, just say yes and worry about how you're going to do it later, mate. And that's literally how it happened. And that's, when I would have started crossing paths with all the guys that were like you, that were just the bread and butter backbone of the sport. And back in those days, there were hundreds of you racing state and national motocross and supercross events back then, and still working, driving to the race Friday night after work, driving home after the race back on and clock on for your apprenticeship or your trade on Monday morning. But that's how I started, mate. Yeah,
that's so
that
cool.
long ago, mate. Yeah.
And that period, Hefo was like he was almost the cusp, because he was still working, but top 10.
Sure.
He was like at the end of where you go, do I go fully professional or do I work? And Hefo was definitely a top 10 racer. Yeah. But working in the coal mines at Wollongong, wasn't it?
For sure. But back then, remember, how many races could you guys race?
Oh, yeah. We were just...
And there was prize money at all of them. The elite guys were making a living from their prize money and some sponsorship revenue. Yeah. Whereas these days, it's gone the other way. Like, sponsorship money and contract money has become the majority and the prize money is the lesser. But back then, you could live the best life racing dirt bikes, but then working through the week and just having the best life, wasn't it?
So my crossing paths with you was, I guess, ADB.
Yeah, sure.
So when did from Revs?
From Revs, I had I think 1 or 2 years with Revs,
yeah.
and during that time came to the attention of Jeff Eldridge.
Yeah.
You know, he was like the doyen, of course, of Dirt Bike magazine. ADB was the Bible, still is, mate, in dirt bikes. You know, all these years later. And anyway, Jeff, as he grew his magazine, he had staff turnovers, so he asked, would I come and I started with him in late 84, 85. Just junior mini rider section editor, and like, oh wow, unreal, I'm working for ADB doing stories on kids with ADC mini bikes. Yeah.
What was that called? It was
Mini Rider. It was within ADB.
Magazine.
It was like an 8-page section in Mini Rider.
Correct, and I think that is when you did the story on my nephew, Justin.
Yeah, that's right. I remember you saying that guy. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, did all that. Josh Donald, he was the gun, like ADCC rap sponsored rider. Glenn Fern, Chris Hill, he wrote a column for us. All those young punk, they weren't punk. They were like serious kids coming into kid motocross to make a career. But that was it, Mini Rider. Yeah. And then that grew to have its own standalone magazine a couple of times a year. Back in that period as well.
I remember that being part of ADB.
Yeah, sure. It was a centre 8 pages of ADB.
So as a racer, that's when I started to see you around the pitch.
Sure.
You know, I was talking to you earlier, saying this is so like we literally still have our gear on here. We're in the shed.
Yeah.
Air conditioning's on, but it hasn't quite cooled down yet. So Clubby may pass out.
Yeah, I will. I'll be getting close to dehydration shortly. Yeah.
Yeah. What I was saying was, so this is an era pre-social media. So like now, a punter like me can create an entity on social media. I can go, right, I can work hard and put a website out and a YouTube channel and all this.
Yeah, sure.
Back then, you were like the link.
Yeah.
Because you were, you were the main journo at the Supercross races, and your focus is you've got to focus on the event and the guys winning.
Yeah.
But for the guys that are in the, it's like, oh, if only we knew Clubby, you know?
Oh, for sure, yeah. But I agree with you. But then isn't it awesome to think of the development of media over the years? Like back then there was Revs and Australian Motorcycle News, and they'd have a little token sort of dirt coverage, but they could publish their content within 2 to 3 weeks of the event, right? They were fortnightly. ADB was a monthly. So if you kind of miss a deadline, you were waiting 4 weeks at best to have something in your hand from the event. And then, I remember Supercross in America, you could phone in and get results. So like just an audio listing of results from Supercross races in America. And that was kind of the next media development. Then the internet happened. And then I again remember, everyone in Australia follows US Supercross, and Cycle News, one of the weekly newspapers there, would do it was an internet-based coverage of race events live, but with written words. So a journo would sit in the press box, McGrath's just won the heat one, Emig second, and then the website, or at least that would give you like almost instant coverage just by written words. And then boom, after that, the internet became a real thing, so you could have published words and photos within hours of an event, whereas now, with social media, streaming, everything, it's just instant now, and it's just an amazing progression in media.
Your ADB days, were you riding then?
Yeah. Okay. But I was never a motocross racer. I was
just social riding and
social rider, trail rider, off-road. Clubman by name, Clubman by speed. Okay. That was all my.
So we never would have known that. No, we just knew Clubby was the ADB guy.
Yeah, that's right.
And we could always see how busy you were running around.
Sure, that's it. I had a tight relationship with Vincent Tesoriero, Mr. Motocross promoter, Phil Christensen. I had a good professional relationship with him, but then a great personal relationship with Christo as well. Yeah. And obviously, we went hand in hand. The magazine coverage of their events helped their events, but their events helped sales of the magazines by giving really good, credible content that we could cover. That hasn't changed with media and event relationships. It's just in different formats now.
So ADB, how long were you there for?
I had 2 stints at ADB. So 5 years the first time before Jeff died. I left, and I was probably a couple of years out working freelance. And at that time, it was early 90s, and I was doing a lot of still editorial freelance magazine work, but then also a lot of personal. This was sort of in the era when riders started to have PR agents. Right. And so I was like creating press releases immediately after events for riders to then not only supply to their sponsors, but to the general media as well. So that would be faxing. This is how far back we're going. I'd sit there immediately after a race, get back to a hotel room or a press room, and then I'd have this tiny little compact typewriter, that I could preview, had a little LCD preview of the words so I could edit as I go, and then spit out literally a 2-page press release. And I would, each night I would do one for Yamaha race team, for the Suzuki team, Glenn Bell, Mark Luxich with the Honda team, and that would all be then, I could distribute that out immediately after the events to assist them with promoting themselves and their sponsors, and then also then have a deadline the next morning for revs, say, as a freelancer, because I would work for all the magazines. And so one event would be generating all this work for me because no one else was doing it. It was like the real early days of professional PR agency support for riders to help them with their sponsorship activities, but also help the promoters with the events. So yeah, twice I worked with ADB. In between I was doing that work in my own business. Then after Jeff was killed in the Nevada Rally in America in 1993, his partner Vicky Huston, who carried on the magazine after he died, she reached out because they needed someone to then edit ADB. Tony Kirby was there, but then he had issues in maintaining the pressure of a monthly deadline, and ADB was a growing commercial entity as well. It was like people read the magazine and see the stories, see the photos, gloss over all the advertising, but that's it's a vitally fundamental section of a magazine. All the commercial relationships.
Keep talking. I'm going to adjust the air conditioner while you're going.
Yeah. So, crank it right up, man. Let's go to max, mate. Are you cold in here?
I'm cold.
You look cold, mate. I'm sweating for Australia, but I'm more than sweating enough for you too.
I didn't even put my phone on bloody airplane mode.
But going back the second time to ADB, because don't be under any illusion that Eldridge created ADB and ADB was Eldridge. Yeah. And he was like, I will give that guy the most immense amount of kudos for what he created, how he ran it, and for being a one-man band that took absolutely no crap from anyone about his product and how he ran it and what he wanted to do with it. He was like an amazing guy. And I work, and everything I did in publishing after that, when I had my own magazine, Trail Zone, for 10 years as an independent publisher, it was all using skills that I learnt and gained from working with Jeff the first time round in the 80s in ADB, when back then the mag was probably already 10 years old back then, from when he had started it and running it,
Sorry, I seem distracted. It's 38 degrees outside. I'm trying to turn the bloody air conditioner on.
Do you think? Or?
Mate, I just got to find my...
Wouldn't that Harley you ride have an air conditioner somewhere with it, or...
20 degrees. I'm going to turn... I've got to turn the fan up high.
I think turn the fan up high, Mel.
Because we've been out, fan, medium, high, I'm going to turn... any air conditioning experts out there? Living room, I'm going to turn the master off.
But this is a good setup you've got now. I'm impressed.
Yeah, there we go.
There's a lot of work going into the backdrop. Oh, there's an air vent right there. Is it cranking out now?
Yeah, it should be.
Why don't we stand up there near that? You've got
I don't know. I'm okay. It's like a German sauna.
How do you live up here? It is interesting.
Well, mate, I'm from the Snowy Mountains, eh?
Yeah, but that doesn't get...
What I say is, people in Cooma used to bitch about the cold, and I go, well, you live in the Snowy Mountains.
Flipping hell. Where would you rather live, mate? Obviously, by desert.
So when you live in Queensland and people bitch about the heat, you go, we're living in Queensland, mate. What did you expect?
Exactly right.
What did you expect?
Exactly right, mate.
Okay, so ADB, when did you wrap up there?
So the second 5-year stint went from about 94.5 to 99. By then I was married, and Tanya and I decided to take a year off work, and we travelled through Europe for the back half of 1999, and we basically just travelled in a car, but our itinerary was set by motocross GP events, world trials events, world enduro events, ISD, motocross destinations, and that's where I'm so lucky that Tanya would put up with going to the races, but she loves it. She loves cheering on Australians, and she loves she doesn't ride and that, but just loves the atmosphere of those. And they're all blue ribbon events. So that was our itinerary, and we did that for 4 months. Came home for Christmas, and then we had another 6 months still up. We were taking a full 12 months, so we went to America, and I ran the first 10 rounds of the Supercross Championship.
And were you writing for anyone there?
Yeah, I was freelancing through that whole time for 4 different magazines in 4 different countries, which worked out perfectly because it didn't give me a conflict in any market. There was Kiwi Rider in New Zealand, ADB back here at home, MX UK was a monthly dirt bike magazine in the UK. How's this? Guess who the editor was? You'll never guess. Sean Hawker, who's now at Yamaha. Right. English guy. He was the editor. And he gave us a lot of work. And then Cycle News as well in America was working for 4 magazines while I was travelling.
Holy
And
cow.
so that just helped pay, put diesel in the tank of the renter truck
Yeah.
and all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah.
Came home, and then as soon as I got home, just fell into a job as editor of Freerider Motocross,
Yeah.
which had just started. It had published 1 issue, and the guy, Mike Gilbert, who created it, the concept, brilliant guy in terms of content creation. Like he should have been born 15 years later to be in the digital era. I'm sure he probably works in that now.
Yeah.
But back then it was just all print. And he was brilliant, but a commercial nightmare, I'm told, by the publisher. Yet the thing sold its pants off for the first issue of Freerider. So I came back and said, yeah, okay, I can do that. I'll give you 6 issues of Freestyle Motocross magazine. I was a square peg in a round hole in that industry. But the dudes in the industry were ripping, as I say now.
And this is Metal Militia.
Oh, absolutely, man. The Luke Urick inked up, Seth Enslow. Who was the other little dude? There was a...
Metzger.
But no, other underground Aussie guys.
You mentioned one today.
Oh, Shuey was another awesome guy. I'm just trying to think of this young kid. Mate, Dane Kinnaird. He was in that scene as well. But they were just ripping guys. They accepted me because they were smart enough. Okay, they were underground enough, they were punk enough to be core freestylers, but they knew the value of exposure in a pure freestyle mag to their sponsors. So they supported me, I supported them, got the magazine settled onto an even keel every second month. Away, bought Gopper, Grant O'Brien in, when I then got an offer to go to Dirt Action for the next 5 years to help build Dirt Action up to compete against ADB. So we brought Gopper in, and he was like green as green, mate. And he took over Freerider magazine and did an ace job. And then this is how the industry goes round. 18 months ago, Dirt Action, which is the sister magazine to Adventure Bike that I work for now, they needed a new editor. And they got me to do it for 6 months, the 2 magazines, and I worked like a Trojan to get both magazines done. And I said, talk to Gobber. Gobber's still on the scene, mate, like he's out of journalism, but he's still on the bike scene, he's up the North Coast doing his thing. Talk to him, and then here we are now, a year later, he's back as editor of Dirt Action magazine. So the industry just goes around.
Home office for you all the time?
ADB always worked in their offices. They had, like Eldridge was just a visionary. He had great offices, 2 different offices, one at Brookvale, one at Warriewood on the northern beaches. They were in small industrial units that he had fitted out with office suites, boardrooms.
What a great magazine.
It was an awesome magazine, but an awesome enterprise. And then the second stint that I had at ADB, Tom Foster was already there as the advertising manager, and Tommy and I just got on unreal, same age, same wavelength, same kind of writing we liked. And mate, for 5 years we just kicked ass with ADB, and I'm not taking the credit for that. ADB was already established; it was the landmark title in the marketplace. But the industry was strong. You were coming into Thumper Nats, and mate, the commercial support for ADB was just off the charts, and was just and that was all Eldridge's vision. And so often I would think to myself, imagine if Eldridge was still here now. And I'm talking then late 90s, let alone then when the digital era came into it. Because another thing about Eldridge, he was always awesome at grasping new technology.
Right.
Like when faxes came in. Man, he was the first dude to have a fax. I remember being there at the office of Brookvale. He sent his first fax out to Chested, and it was to Ross King, Off-Road Imports. And Ross rings back in 30 seconds. I got it. Wow, this is awesome, And then Macintosh computers came in, desktop publishing came in, and Jeff was always on the wavelength immediately with new technology, and I can only imagine where he would have gone.
Isn't it crazy? That's 30 years ago.
Oh, it's so long ago, brother. It is so long ago.
The advancement.
It's ballistic now.
Ridiculous.
It's like now, like today, we're out there, ripping around there, where we're Scenic Rim and all that on big adventure bikes. And we come back, I've got an SLR camera with digital images, you view at the time. Yeah, it's good, Mal, that's good, Steve, move on to the next shot. I used to have to wait 3 days to get film processed to know we got the photo.
I was telling you, so I used to do a little bit of journo work for Australian Mountain Bike Magazine, which was owned by EMAP.
Yep.
And we had a digital camera, we had a SLR camera, 35mm.
Yeah.
So, and slide.
Yeah, slide film.
So I had to wait for...
That's right.
I don't even know what I'm photographing here. I'm a photographer, and we'd be at international mountain bike events taking photos.
Yeah.
And if we take 300, one photo's got to work.
Yeah, it's funny, but it's just on that. I'll give you a funny story in the ADB days. This was after Jeff died, and I sent Tuffy. Everyone will know Stephen Tuff, mate. And he was just started with us at ADB. I sent him up to Newcastle, up to Reedy's house. This is before Reedy went overseas. I said, yeah, you got to shoot Reedy. We're doing a poster magazine. I need a couple of good, tough action shots for posters in that separate magazine. But then we want a story on Chad, who was riding RMs then for Jay Foreman's team. And I said, I want a killer shot for the cover of Chad on the RM on his Supercross track. So Tuffy goes up, comes back, gets back. Did you get the shot? Like, that was my first question.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. And I remember him saying that. I said, how can you not know? You know when you're shooting, if you've got it or not.
Yeah.
But, he was green, he was new into it. But in Tuffy's defence, for not knowing that he got the shot, when we got the film back, yeah, he did get the shot.
Yeah.
Mate, yeah. But yeah, how like we're sweating like I'm sweating today, waiting for the film to come back from the lab to know you haven't overexposed the whole bloody lot and you've got to reshoot it, mate. That's technology.
And isn't it funny, even with these bloody GoPros, I did one video of a school out here at QMP, and whole thing went white. And it was like 2.5 hours of training with this guy, and I told this guy, and he told his family and rang all his friends and said, I'm going to be on Old Man Speed YouTube channel and blah, blah, blah. I had to ring him, mate. Lost the whole thing. Yeah. So then I did it at school the next day and literally repeated the whole process with so I think the guy's name was Tony or Trevor. Sorry, mate. Yeah. But I said, this is the new Tony or Trevor the next day. Did the school again. So,
how many times have you had memory card failure?
A couple of times on our Cape York trip. I'm a bit stressed today about heat of the camera, that it may. I just got to keep. So if I keep looking at this in distraction,
because I've got to keep checking.
As long as that's flashing, we're good.
But aren't they awesome?
They're not too bad. I mean, look, this is raw. I've got a second audio set up. We'll see how it all works out. But I wanted to take this opportunity because I haven't seen this man since the 80s.
It's forever.
To be able to sit here with him now, because we all admired what you did. And I think what I really enjoyed about what you did and what you do now, and we're going to go into that as well, you've never been the opinionated person, or you've never been the... You've never strutted too high or ridden too high on the horse.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I always strike a lot of people in the media industry, and they're playing for sheep stations, and I don't always get it, and we have in different eras. Like there were times when media outlets wanted exclusive to access to events to generate content. And I'm thinking, are you serious? Why? And then why, as a promoter, why would you then accept that term other than for some type of commercial arrangement? I've never understood it, So I've never myself wanted to lock people out or make an event or a content opportunity purely exclusive. I can understand the commercial desire of that, but I personally don't have that commercial desire. Yeah. And I hark back to, I started to get caught up in an example of that, and it's too long a story to go into in the US when I was there. And I was talking to Davey Coombs, there's a guy who's a doyen magazine publisher, Racer X owner, publisher, it's the landmark dirt bike magazine in the US, and talking to Davey about this, and he said, I always remember, and then he wrote it later in a column, it's not a party unless everyone's invited. And that's just how I live, mate, and it's how I live, it's how I work. Over the years, I've worked for every dirt bike magazine in Australia, and others have come and they've gone, and then others have come again. Yet what I'm doing, I'm still there, I'm still doing it. I'm now on a purely adventure bike magazine with Australian Adventure Bike, and that's what I love doing. I've always said to readers, subscribers, because the most common question I would get at all the expos and shows, Clubby, how do you fill the magazine up? Don't you ever run out of stories? And I say to everyone, man, in 35 years, no, I have never run out of content. My biggest issue with every new issue when I'm planning it is what to leave out, not what am I going to fill it with. And I just always had the content.
It's interesting. We spoke 6 months ago, maybe. Andrew and I spoke on, doesn't like Andrew, by the way, Clubby. Clubby, we spoke online, and he goes, I really want to do a story on you and your Harley. And by chance, he met Gawley at Anthony Gunter's funeral the other week, and then... Yeah,
we've been trying to brew this up for a while, but as you know with Gawley, I've done so much work with Steve over the years, and there's a guy, here's another tip on Gawley. Back in the day, he'd run an A4 to a page to a day diary, and those 38 lines were not enough for each of the activities he had going each day.
Changed.
And now he's 67 now, still fitter than a Mallee bull, eh? But still just as busy. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
So it's this is like this day, this ride, those imagery, and the interview back then at the pub for my story. It's been weeks and months in the planning to bring all the stars aligned to come up here into the middle of the summer and sweat our guts out for a day and go ride adventure bikes.
That's why I'm so stoked he actually pulled this time out of today to come and do this as well. So I hope you do all enjoy this. So let's get on to this. I'll actually get on to this first. Mm-hmm. So after ADB... Dirt Action for 5 years. Yeah. And then I just got the itch that like I wanted to do my own magazine. And it wasn't, brutal honesty, not driven commercially, just driven by the want to do that. Yeah. And I think if anything, it came back to the first time round with Eldridge and seeing Eldridge create his own magazine and just his own magazine brand and business. And I said to my wife Tanya, it's time to do it. I'm going to do it now. So we ended up creating Trail Zone magazine, which was a bi-monthly trail bikes, enduro bikes, adventure bikes. Yeah. And luckily that kind of came as adventure bikes were just starting to become a thing. Yes. You know, so I had a few trusted contributors work with me. Popgun, Phil Gillis, he had worked with me at all the different magazines doing all my technical content. And then Lance Turnley, he came on. He was the one that prompted me to do a regular adventure bike section in Trail Zone because he could see adventure bikes coming. Yeah. And that was, classic timing. So we ran that for 10 years up till from 05 to 15. And then just by then, well, man, we were just getting smashed by the digital revolution. Yeah. And so that business that for 10 years had carried Tanya and I in a work from home opportunity, fabulously, perfectly, no issue. It just became a point where the magazine was not costing money, but not making money on the back of the rush of all these digital online opportunities. And so one night we sat there, I looked at some financials for the first quarter of a financial year. I just said to Tanny, nah, that's enough, Tandy. I'm going back to freelance. That's it. Can Trail Zone. That's it. Done. Finish it. Pay back all the subscribers that had advanced subscription purchases. We did all that. Got that done. Then I went back into freelance. And then 4 years later, this opportunity came up with Australian Adventure Bike. And I'm thinking Adventure Bike magazine, perfect. And full kudos to another journo, Damien Ashenhurst. Yeah. He was the one that started this. He'd gone into Dirt Action well after I left. And then they made this as a one-off magazine, then a biannual, then a quarterly. And so Damo created it, founding editor. And then when he left Universal Magazines, they came knocking on my door again 20 years later after I'd worked at Dirt Action, which they also produced. And so, I said, mate, Adventure Bike magazine, you've got your man, I'm in. Yeah. That's what I'm doing now. And how cool that it's, we were talking about this morning when we were having coffee, that I think the demographic of elite adventure bike guys don't mind sitting down and having a flick through the paper and with a coffee.
My little hashtag is ink on your fingers. Yeah. You go to work, you look at a computer screen all day. Yeah. You don't want to come home and look at your monitor or your iPad. Guys like us want to sit down with a magazine in your hand, and our demographic readership, it's 45 to 60. I've just turned 60 now. You've turned 60. Gawley's turned 80 or whatever he is. Yeah. And that's the demographic I see out there every day of the week, mate. And I always tell the story now. I'm out riding and I ride a lot, travel a lot for creating content for the mag. I can be anywhere. You pick a spot in Australia on what's today? Thursday. So Thursday, 11 a.m, I can be at the side of the ruins outside Arkaroola village in the Flinders Ranges. I just got to stop, need to have a piss, standing there with the old Willer out, having a dribble, and you just hear thump, 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 thump. And it's three dudes on DR650s from the Mornington Peninsula of Victoria. And they get there, mate. But it's just, awesome. People are just out there adventure bike riding now all the time, mate. All the time.
And this, what you're riding here today?
This one, CF Moto, 450 MT. So that's a little China bike, I call this one, And people have political persuasions about China. Okay, fine, whatever. But $9,500. I call it like a little mini T7. It's a 450 parallel twin, 270-degree crank, 17-litre tank, over 400 kilometre range. Loves to rev. Don't be shy about revving. It keeps up with the highway traffic.
Coming back in, like I was sitting on speed limit. I was sitting on 100 kilometres an hour, but we had to increase that speed to overtake a couple of times, and the thing just. So I'm on my 1250 Harley, and this thing's right up my butt the whole way.
No, I do love riding it. You know, it's funny. I've had it 6 months now. We've done 7,000 or 8,000 kilometres on it. It has not missed a beat for what that's worth to all you dudes that want to pick the eyes out of Chinese product. But it's the most mainstream Chinese adventure bike
and
so far.
They're selling in Australia?
It's a top selling bike. They sold over 1,000 of them in 8 or 9 months last year since it was introduced.
And we'll see if Moto, do you reckon they're taking KTM over? Are they going to be?
I would say it's between Bajaj's the Indian manufacturer that is they already own 49 or 51%, or the other way around, informally with KTM. Right. CF Moto's arrangements, as I understand it, is more in global distribution partnerships. So, my read on where that whole KTM situation will play out is, yes, those two brands will be fighting to protect their own survival.
Okay.
Okay, because you can only imagine out of that alleged 2.3 billion of debt that KTM and then Pira Group have, how much of that would be debt to CF Moto and Bajaj. And so they're going to want to not have to write, let alone write 70% off. If they can keep it and trade it out and make that back by taking a bigger stake in the company. Yeah. There's a few people online now saying, KTMs will still be orange, but they'll be called CF Motos. And that's just started the last couple of days. Right. I'm seeing that. Yeah. Whereas online, whereas previously it was all Bajaj, talk about them being the more dominant partner. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. But isn't it? It's big bickies that.
Yeah.
It is, mate. It is just ballistic.
I just sold a gas. So I just had a gas 450, and some people are going, "Oh, you should sell it, mate. They're not going to be around anymore." I go, "Mate, it's a 450 dirt bike with 20 hours. Someone's going to want it." Yeah. And then the dude that bought it, he bought it for his dad actually, because he loves gases and the old man. So, they're still a great bike. But,
I think KTM as a brand will carry on.
Yeah, I think
as to what the ownership and management structure will be, that's the $64 million.
I wonder if they'll drop these little side brands off. Be shame to see Husky go though.
Husky, absolutely, Well,
that's stay, surely.
Yeah, it will be indeed. But see how it plays out. That's just big business.
And what do you think of where we went today?
Oh, it's gorgeous up here. Like I knew that region from a Honda trip with Daryl Beattie, but I've got to come up and do more with you. I will flag that with you. That there's so much riding to be had, like directly south from here and southwest. Yeah. I've had a couple. For 10 years I ran Tenere Tragics, the Yamaha event, and that was a safari style ride, different destination.
Is that still your event? Do you still?
I don't run. No, I'm over with Tenere Tragics. We got to 2020. We ran our 10th event. And I kind of always thought, 10 events will be, that's a landmark, that'll do it. And the 10th event was staged in March 2020. As we're all coming home, 2 days later we all got home, COVID hit.
Yes.
Okay, and then so when all COVID started to settle down the first time, I thought, I'm going to pony up, do one more as an 11th Tragics run. And it was from Yamba in New South Wales, North Coast, through here. Warwick was an overnight stop. And then finish up at Longreach at Rocket Rods. Who's been an unreal supporter of the Tragics for 10 years, finish at Longreach. And with all the COVID 2, 3 and 4, the lockdowns, then we had it fully organised, and Tanya would do all the accommodation, all the entries, all the sponsorship, all the admin, and she ended up having to do it 3 times over like an 18-month period with COVID lockdowns coming in, cancelling. The third time attempt, we were ready to go, and I'm down at Tenterfield the weekend before doing my final recce riding and routing, and I'm looking at the weather forecast. It's going to start raining on Monday up here. I'm thinking, get in before we get to Tenterfield, to Warwick the next weekend. Man, the rain didn't stop. Yeah. And if you remember the floods when it were Warwick was under, Millmerran was under, Tara, all the way up the whatever rivers they are, and we got totally washed out. Yeah. And so for a third time we had to cancel it. We refunded everybody their money, and it was just, and I'll admit it, at the time it was harrowing because you got 100 or 75 paying riders that want to chase me for a week, and I'm trying to make the call about how bad is this weather going to be, and the thought of someone getting washed off a causeway or going off route or. And it kicked I'll admit it, it's fine, I don't care admitting it, it kicked a psychological nerve, and I just thought, okay, I've had 10 years, it's been awesome. Yeah. I do feel for the Tragics, personally, because it was their big ride of the year. To get out, and like we've talked about how many times in the last 24 hours, the inspiration You know, your videos are inspiration for guys to get on bikes and ride. Magazines are still, all these years later, are still inspiration, and those big group rides are inspiration and aspiration for people to get on their bikes and rides.
With the KTM thing, like Jimmy Deacon, David Armstrong, they do all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And mate, look at BMW, look at what Boothie and Erky have got now. Like, and that's an absolute empire they've got there with hundreds of riders paying thousands of dollars, but that's the demand that's out there with adventure.
COVID, I was at a birthday party and I saw Erky there, and it was when all that shit was going down. So he had like $500,000 worth of...
easily the turnover those guys do with the sheer volume of entries.
And then having to refund it, and they had accommodation booked
I was just one little event once a year.
Yeah, no, they had this whole tour all booked.
Oh, everything, mate. Everything.
I think it's a real credit
to
them.
But how awesome is it now that, I mean, okay, COVID's a distant memory, but how popular are all adventure group rides?
Yeah.
But then it's funny, like you and I are sitting in that pub half an hour ago up the road there, and you're saying to me, I really like to do my rides. And that's the thing about adventure.
It's,
everyone can do their thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I find so awesome. And it's funny, I love participating in group rides. I did love leading the Tragics group ride. Now it's a 5-day, 2,500 kilometre route with, like I said, 75 guys chasing me every day. But now I still love doing my own rides. Yeah. And like you said back there, I just like to do mine.
I think one thing I didn't say then, because I was bloody coaching so much. So with my off-road, like with adventure bike coaching, I was coaching so much and taking groups of 8 people and 6 people and 5 people. Right. But then it's like, I just want to go for a ride by myself.
Yeah, sure.
And then what would happen is, because, it's not like it'd be like you with the Tragics. You almost got to be on the whole time.
Oh, totally, mate.
You can't turn up as a shithead.
No way.
So then you reflect a better side of your personality, which people get drawn to.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So then everyone wants to go, do you want to come for a ride with us? And we're organised. And I go, mate, look, because I was just exhausted from being with people, and coaching is, it's bloody hard, and doing the Tragics would be the same, because Andrew Clubb has to be turned up for 10.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so when I coach, Mal has to be, I used to say to my wife, I'm going to I'd be like a wiggle. I'd be going to do a performance.
Oh, go on.
Because, I'd be in
there'd
be financial shit happening or whatever, and you go, no, I've got to go now, and I've got to be that guy.
This has got to happen.
Yeah. And then, like Schindler's List, when I finished the day's coaching, I always wanted to do more.
Right, yeah.
But I kind of learned a little thing with videography, actually. A good mate of mine, Mick, where you'd watch my videos, Mick Pillinger, he said to me, nobody knows what you don't put in your video.
Absolutely, yeah.
And with coaching, nobody knows what you don't teach them.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I go through 98% of stuff, which I do, right, but there was 2%, I go, shit, I should have bloody done log jumps, or I should have done this. Well, that's on me. The person may not even know that I was probably going to include that in the coaching.
Yeah, that's true. Right?
Yeah.
No, but what and like I'm sure in your world it's the same. It's doing what you love to do, and that's the biggest, most fortunate aspect about my life. Is for all these years I've done what I love to do.
Yeah.
And so many other people I cross paths with. They got to get up and do what they don't really like to do every day of the week, just to grind it out, to make a living, to pay the bills, to then maybe go for a ride on the dirt bike if the stars align on the weekend. Yeah. Whereas, I get on any bike anytime.
Isn't that funny, mate?
Oh, but I'm not bragging about it, but I'm just saying I'm saying what I'm saying is I'm just really fortunate.
Yes.
And it's my profession, it's my job, my vocation, but it's always been my pastime,
There's days I've coached, but I've been going, oh, for God's sake, I put my boots on, I'm going, what are you doing, you idiot? You're on a roof doing solar for 12 years, now you're bitching and moaning about going out on your bike to ride and just talk to people.
Yeah, exactly.
That are all there to have a high energy and enjoy it.
That's right. Yeah.
No. Hey, mate, you happy with that?
That's
happy.
Awesome, mate.
We've had a good chat.
Yeah.
Clubby's an absolute legend. I will say one thing here, that they quite often say never meet your heroes or people that you idolise. And Clubby's definitely one of these people that was, because in the 80s, he was the guy. He was the one that was out there on the infield of the Supercross track, taking the photos. Yeah. Today we rode with an absolute living legend, and they say don't meet your legends. We're riding with Gawley today.
Gawley. But how good is he?
Absolute legend of the bloke.
How good is he, yeah. No, it was a good day, Mel, and I'm just stoked to make it happen. And I just want, as I said to you before, I'll do some more laps with you up around the scenic rim for other stories in the future, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, thanks, Andrew.
No, thank you, brother.
Thanks for coming, and thanks so much for coming and doing this, because I know this is you're trying to get back to Sydney tonight.
Yeah, I've got a job. Hey, how's this? Do you like? Ask me where I'm going to be on Saturday.
All right, Saturday. Where are you going to be?
I've got to go up. I'm going out with another videographer guy, another mate of mine, Lance Turnley. He wants to do a Hungry Creek. Where is it now?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
so how much time did you ever spend at Hungry Creek back in the day?
I did one school there.
School? Oh, did you do a school with Gawley?
No, I went there. Gawley was Crook. I had Greg Cady and Roy Chamberlain.
Oh, okay.
And Big Tall Roy.
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah. So I'll be back there Saturday.
Amazing.
It's there's not much to see, but the valley is obviously still there. The topography's there, but the tracks are long gone and such. But that was just a mecca. That was such a venue. You know?
Riding with Gawley.
That's where I'll be on Saturday.
That's fantastic. So riding with Gawley, I would hear it once a week. Mate, I was at a school with you in 1988 at Hungry Creek, or 86.
Like everybody that rode a motorbike must have done a school with Gawley.
When I do a video with him in the comments section, Hungry Creek, 86, 82.
Yeah, exactly.
It's incredible.
Yes, that's where I'll be. That's the next assignment, mate.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think I'm chained to the keyboard for about 10 days, tapping out the old stories. To get some ink on my fingers again when the magazine comes out at the end, mate.
All right.
Printed magazine.
Well, thank you, Andrew Clubb, only known as Clubby, unless it's his mother or wife.
My mum and Gawley are the only two people in the world that call me Andy. I just don't know why Stephen, he just from day one picked it up as Andy. Yeah. Everyone else calls me Clubby, but anyway.
Clubby's pretty standard.
Yeah.
Cheers, mate. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, mate.
Hope you enjoy it. And we'll get together for a ride.
Oh, for sure.
Actually, I'll come down south and do a ride down around somewhere.
Yeah.
Because like I'm from the Snowy Mountains, so I want to go back down there and do some rides. And
Barry Way, mate. That'd be all. You'd be all over that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Barry Way down into Vic.
I've never even been down there and four-wheel drive.
Oh, it's beautiful, mate.
Never done
it. Beautiful. Yeah. No, that's a date, mate, for sure.
Cool, man. Thanks, mate.
Unreal.
Cheers, everyone. Catch you all soon.